You're listening to the Law of Attraction Radio Network.
Welcome to Manifesting Your Dreams. Join renowned Grammy Award winner, jazz pianist, and Amazon #1 best-selling author John Novello each week as he uncovers the secrets of the invisible architect, the quantum intelligent energy that permeates everything, even us. Discover how to tap into this inner power to use it to design the perfect life you deserve. The invisible architect, as within so without, is your guide to achieving your dream life. And now, here's your host, the jazz philosopher, John Novello.
Great. Hi, everybody. John Novello here, the jazz philosopher. Welcome to my Invisible Architect weekly, as within, without weekly radio podcast on the incredible Law of Attraction Radio Network, which I'm so excited to be a part of. I learned a long time ago that true enlightenment is really only achieved through service of others. So the first part of my lifetime, I entertained and inspired others with my music, but I never figured in my twilight years I'd be directly helping others as a spiritual servant and messenger of the Creator, who I have named the Invisible Architect. See my Amazon #1 best-selling book, The Invisible Architect, for the details. Anyway, I was contacted by the architect at 3 years old, and I've had a relationship ever since, sort of like Neil Donald Walsh, who I had on my show 2 weeks ago, did in 1992, and he wrote a famous book called Conversations with God. But anyway, I really appreciate you all, so a big welcome to all listeners, especially new ones. I'm really excited this week about our special guest, Irina Nola, who is a hypnotherapist, past life regression therapist, trained by Weiss and Dolores. 13 years in practice, located in New Orleans, but working mostly online because of COVID. Her website's www.neworleanshypnosis.com, but I'll put it in the notes. She specializes in past lives with soulmates or twin flames and created her own unique modality, twin flame regression, which goes beyond past lives and into the Akashic Records. And we actually had a guest on, I think it was last week, that talked about the Akashic Records. She also deals in the creation of souls, afterlife existence, and communication with spirit guides or angels. So Irina, welcome to my As Within Without Law of Attraction radio podcast.
Thank you, John. I'm happy to be here.
So tell a little bit about how you got started in the spiritual business, let's call it that, and then eventually got into a specialization into twin flames, which is a very special, I don't want to say hobby, interest of mine, considering my experiences, which maybe we'll talk about later. How'd you get started?
Well, I was born in the Soviet Union, in St. Petersburg. It was called Leningrad then. And of course, I was raised as an atheist. Everybody was. It was an atheistic country. There were churches, but they were mostly false people. Young people didn't believe in any God or anything like that. However, since I was a child, I had very strange dreams and memories and flashbacks from countries and cultures I had no knowledge of. So that I also had dreams about heaven, like flying above crystal castles and flying with the rainbow wings and literally being like an angel.
Wow.
Which was kind of similar to religious art, which I didn't really believe in.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know where all those dreams are coming from. So eventually, when I got older and I started learning more about different religions, I got really into Buddhism because I came with the idea that, people must be reincarnated. There must be something after death. I didn't really believe in, necessarily God or anything, like creator. And Buddhism served me pretty well because, there is really no God in Buddhism.
Right.
However, there is reincarnation and there is an idea of immortality of the soul or spirit and, the soul moving from life to life to life. At some point, I got in Tibetan Buddhism. We actually had a temple back in St. Petersburg. It wasn't open at that point. They opened it later because in some parts of the Soviet Union, like Altai Mountains, it's all Buddhist. They have ashrams, they have monasteries, and most of the population of Altai are Buddhist. So
Right.
that's one of the religions of the former Russian Empire. So I got into Buddhism, and I got myself like a lung on the green Tara, and I was chanting mantras. And at some point in my life, when I was studying psychology in college, and eventually I moved to United States in 1990, and I was not able to get any kind of jobs here as a psychologist because in United States you have to have a degree in psychology from United States. They
Right.
don't allow. So the only jobs I could get was like administrator in the hospital or receptionist or something like that. And I actually preferred being a waitress. And later I got into face painting. I was painting faces in Central Park, traveling, doing festivals. And eventually, I believe it was about maybe 2007 or something. I was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it was pouring thunderstorm. It was thunder and lightning. And I was walking on Massachusetts Avenue, and I ended up in a bookstore, just hiding from the thunderstorm. And so I went to New Age section and started looking through books, to kill time while in the rain. And I found a book by Michael Newton, Destiny of Souls.
Right. One of my
And
favorite
I
books.
started reading it, and I couldn't stop because I already read a whole bunch of books on reincarnation before. I read Brian Weiss and all kinds of other authors, about past lives, and I really liked reading books about past lives. I believe in them. But this book absolutely changed my whole worldview. Because as a Buddhist, I believe that our destiny is decided by our karma. So after you die, you go to Bordeaux, you travel in the worlds of Bordeaux, and depending on your karma, your next family, your next location, next life is decided. It never even came to my head that we can be choosing our own lives or planning our own lives. It was basically up to some universal computer which creates, different scenarios for us so we can learn. And eventually we want to get off the wheel of karma after many, many repetitions. And like Buddha had 500 lives, if Buddha had 500 lives, then I probably need more than that. I'm not that enlightened. So it was very much like my worldview was very, our lives are decided for us. We're just basically, the best we can do is just meditate and pray and, be a kind person, create good karma, and maybe next life is going to be better. But according to Michael Newton, it was not true. And, the whole destiny of souls, it's all about soul planning of lives and soul groups and spirit guides and the whole trip through the afterlife, which is nothing like Bordeaux at all.
Right. A lot of pre-birth agreements and scripts.
Right.
Et cetera.
Contracts, agreements,
Yes.
soul plans. I
Right.
had no idea that how it is done. And again, a lot of in his descriptions of the life between lives, there are a lot of things I remember from my dreams.
Right.
There's a lot of it was really resonating, like especially when he talking like about souls glowing all different colors, and it all looks like a Christmas tree. I remember that from my dreams. I've been there. I mean, it's all really was like hitting on the nail. It's exactly. So for me, it was like a new Bible.
Right.
Oh my God, I found a new religion. And of course, I read the book, I bought the book, I called right away the number, and they say that Michael Newton himself retired. You go on the website, find a person, and I was in Boston, so I've found somebody in Boston and went and did the past life regression right away. But I never did the LBL, I just did the past life regression. I was supposed to come back like a year later. And about that time, I also figured out that in United States, to be a hypnotherapist, you don't need to be a medical doctor. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know that because I probably would get into this business much earlier. But, like both in Russia and in Israel, you need to be a medical doctor or licensed, some kind of a licensed therapist. I was not licensed in the United States, but in Russia, you couldn't even be a clinical psychologist and a hypnotherapist. You have to be a medical doctor. And I noticed that Michael Newton is a clinical psychologist, just like me. I'm like, oh my God, can I study with you? Well, you need to go through 300 hours of hypnotherapy school and do this and do that, and you can eventually study with them. Which, again, I emailed, different schools. They were all very, very expensive. I couldn't afford it at that point, so I put it on the back burner. But I started reading way more books, about life between lives and afterlife and spiritual reality and stuff like that. So eventually, then I discovered Dolores Cannon.
Mm-hmm.
And Dolores Cannon, I discovered a different way because I had a friend who was really into alien abductions. And he mentioned Dolores Cannon, alien abductions, and the first book of hers I read was Custodians. That's not about past lives at all. It's all about hypnotherapy for alien abduction, for going on spaceships. But in that book, she also mentions that she's a past life regressionist. So I started reading her books. And then I contacted her school, and her school didn't require any $300 hypnotherapy, not $300, 300 hours.
300 hours.
They're thousands of dollars. I mean, hypnotherapy schools are extremely expensive. So I just subscribed to her workshop. So I ended up going to her workshop. Eventually, I did go to hypnotherapy school. Then I took Brian Weiss class and basically eventually started practicing. And my first modality was QHHT. So I started under Dolores Cannon school,
Yeah,
their guidelines. Yeah.
I've experienced QHHT. Pretty amazing.
QHHT is very interesting modality. I have some issues nowadays with that. I prefer to go more like traditional past life regression route, and instead of working to subconscious, it's easy to because
But you're
people can
still
actually see them.
but in past life regression, are you still kind of trying to talk to the oversoul like she talks about in QHHT? Your higher self?
Yeah, we can, but what I notice that a lot of people can't really contact that.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody, but I notice in the long run, a lot of starseeds or energy beings incarnated in human bodies, they don't have spirit guides, or they
Mm-hmm.
might have extraterrestrial spirit guides, but they don't have all wise men, all wise women. They don't have those. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have human guides at all, except for ancestors from the family. Because, they're born in the human family, so there's always some grandmother in heaven who is taking care of them. But otherwise, they don't have personal spirit guides. For them, it is easier to work with a higher self. However, if the people who are not extraterrestrial, who are not from higher dimensions, who are reincarnating on Earth, for them it's much easier to see the spirit guides. When they're deep in trance, they can see them, they can hear them, and they can talk to them like a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And they know it's coming from a wise person, a wise guide. Because with higher self, you can't see it. You can only channel it.
Mm-hmm.
You might see it as a ball of light above your head, but it doesn't have a physical image. Spirit guides have images. Some of them can be like angelic, or it can be gods, like especially for Hindu clients, it's usually like Shiva or Durga or one of Hindu pantheon gods. But they can see them. They have experience communicating with them, and they know who they're talking about. It's not some subconscious something.
I see.
It is very specifically Lord Shiva or Jesus Christ or old wise man, or they know what it is. So for me, I do QHHT nowadays occasionally, but I prefer doing shorter sessions. QHHT is like 6-hour sessions. I can't physically do that.
Yeah, I
It's
remember
very difficult for me.
mine was
It
six or
was
seven
forever.
6 or 7 hour
Right.
session. Yeah.
Right, it's very difficult. I mean, the longest session I ever had, it was in Italy. I went to Damanhur. I don't know if you know about Damanhur. It's spiritual community in Italy. And I was working with a person who was one of the adepts there, who was student there. And his session was 7 hours. But he was channeler. He so easily go into trance, and he was channeling Atlantean scientists and all kinds of past lives and guides and whatnot. And I would just ask him a question, and he would go on and on and on. And I mean, we did it at night. We ended up on the sunrise.
Mhm.
But not everybody can do that. Most people can stay in trance maybe for a couple of hours, but they can't do that long. Especially older people with medical issues, they get tired. You have to
Right.
understand something. Hypnagogic state, yes, it's a natural state. Yes, we go through it when waking up and falling asleep, but we
Hmm.
go through it for 10 minutes,
That's right.
right? We don't go for 5 hours in theta brainwave. It's not natural. It's an altered state of consciousness. So in a sense, it's almost like a drug. So yeah, usually people who don't have a lot of meditation experience, I would rather do a, 3-hour session, an hour for a pre-talk, like 20 minutes induction, and like hour and a half in a trance state, not 3-5 hours in a trance state, because people have to drive home sometimes, like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
easier, if it's online and they can go to bed. But if it's session in person, they can come to you. Well, it's good if they can take Uber, but otherwise, I don't want a person after 5 hours in trance to drive somebody in a car.
Makes
It's
sense.
just not particularly safe, in my opinion. So I eventually went away from QHHT because I also took Brian Weiss class, and I took a whole bunch of online classes with different people. And again, like Michael Newton has a book, manual for the therapist. You can get a lot of stuff from his book. So my session nowadays, they usually have a past life, one or several, depending what we're doing. And then we go into the afterlife, we get some healing, and we go straight to Akashic Records. Usually I discovered that it's so easy for people in trance to just read a book. They can
Hmm.
either read a book in the library, or they can sometimes use a computer or a movie screen, and we just ask questions to Akashic Records, and they can get all kinds of information very quickly. Because going through a past life is a little bit slow, because you're kind of traveling in time and you're in a different body. So, and there might be trauma, in the past life. So it takes a while. It takes usually like 40 minutes to an hour to go through one past life. When we get to Akashic Records, you get like a digest. You can go
Hmm.
through the whole soul history. You can go jump into that computer or that book and elaborate on each past life, what happened there. But again, you don't get details. You don't get emotions. You don't get sensory information like smells or taste of food, which you can get when you're traveling in time in the past life regression. Akashic Records, no, it's just basically information. Because it's a
Right.
mental plane. It's like seventh dimension mental plane. There are no emotions. You just go really, really quickly and get a whole bunch of stuff. So
Well, then
how I got into
yeah, how did you get into Twin Flames then from that? Because yeah.
right. So I noticed already after doing many, many, many sessions, I've noticed that I really like doing sessions about relationships. And I was getting a lot of clients, with relationship issues, especially when they're torn between two people, or if they're married but in love with somebody else. Or they don't have anybody and they have no soulmate. They have nobody. And very often they go into past life and they had a soulmate, but he died or got killed in a war. And their guides tell them that, yeah, that's why you're alone, because you're waiting for that person and they're coming. And actually, yeah, it turned out like in many situations that was the case. Like a year or two later, they call you and tell you, I'm getting married, come to my wedding. So I had stories like that. So I really kind of like working with this relationship issues. And I heard the term twin flame. It's impossible not to hear it, because I think the first time I heard it was on TV, cable channels, Elizabeth Clare Prophet. You know, she had these big crystals and she had a church like Universal and Triumphant, and she was preaching on every TV channel when she was still living, you know, in 20th century. So I used to watch her. She was interesting. She was basically, you know, based in theosophy, on spiritualism. So a lot of things she was talking about, I would agree with. And again, I was more of a Buddhist. She was basically Christian, but there is a lot of stuff I agreed with what she was talking about reincarnation also. And she mentioned the term twin flames. But in late, I read her book, Soulmates and Twin Flames, and in that book, she is talking about two souls being created together out of universal egg, like a monad or universal egg, which splits into divine feminine and divine masculine aspects. And these two souls, in her understanding, never reincarnate together till the last life on Earth. And then the similar situation also was you remember Sylvia Brown?
Absolutely. I actually had a session with her.
You
I had a
did?
session
Okay.
with her before she passed, yeah.
Right. Yeah, she was very interesting. And she was on TV also. But
Right.
in her books, she also mentions twin flames. But she was saying that they never meet in physical lives. They only meet in the afterlife. They usually take turns reincarnating with other souls, and she didn't even talk about the last life on Earth. So it was like they never meet in physical reality. Like,
Yeah,
okay, if they never meet in physical reality, then why are we even talking about that?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that's true. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that's what I wanted to say, that though I knew the term twin flames, I really didn't believe that it's relevant. You know, if it's only you have to be an ascended master on the last life on Earth, or if you never meet them, then why are we even talking about it?
Exactly.
It's not important. Then what's important for us is soulmates. You know, and again, Michael Newton talks about soulmates, and everybody, Dolores Cannon and Brian Weiss, Dick Sutphin, everybody talks about soulmates. So we grew up with this kind of idea. But I started getting more and more clients talking about twin flames.
As separate from soulmates, right?
Well, I mean, at that point, I didn't believe in it. At that point, when somebody would say, oh, I met my twin flame, like, okay, because I believed in what Elizabeth Clare Prophet said in her book, or that they only can meet in the last life on Earth. So the minute they saw a past life together, I would be, oh, no, you're not twin flames. You're soulmates.
Yeah.
You have, and then we go to Akashic Records, and they have lots and lots of past lives together, and they're usually married to each other. You're primary romantic soulmates.
So what is the main difference then between, in your opinion, because this is important, between soulmates and twin flames? Because I think there's several types of twin flames. There's the monadic twins.
There are several, yeah, that's eventually.
And then there's the split souls, and there's all kinds of things. So that would be very interesting for our audience.
Well, there are eventually, after many sessions, I started taking, because I was already taking them to Akashic Records. So I started taking them to creation of their souls. Because you remember in Michael Newton book, there is a chapter on nursery, when the souls are created, and they're created by nurses out of like one chunk of energy. like little pretzels out of a chunk of dough, and they're separated in his opinion, between 3 and 20. In my sessions, usually it's between 5 and 15. I mean, typically we see, soul groups like 7, 8, 9, 10, like that. Very rare it's more than 15.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I started taking these people who claim to be twin flames, I started taking them to the birth of their soul to see, what is happening there. And I wanted actually to prove to them that they were created in a soul group like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's closest soul, maybe it's romantic soulmate, but they were seeing totally different things than everybody else. They were seeing basically what Elizabeth Clare Prophet describes in her book. They usually saw sometimes it's like a glass house, like a glass enclosure floating in the universe, and the two souls are instead inside of this glass enclosure. And they go into trips and they do all kinds of incarnations on other planets, and they come back, and after each life they meet in this glass house in heaven. Or they were like two souls who are traveling together, one red, one blue, and then some kind of a sack, like two balls in a sack. There was always this exclusiveness. Because remember, Michael Newton never talks about only two souls being created together. For him, the minimum was 3. Whatever, he never mentioned twin flames. So, and I had client after client after client seeing this kind of unusual situations at the birth of their souls. So okay, maybe they are really twin flames, but maybe Elizabeth Clare Prophet is not right about them never having past lives together, because they all see past lives together. The only thing is, when we go into their past lives on Earth, their past lives on Earth are usually tragic. They cannot be together. There are a lot of this, like princess in a stable boys scenario, when they're in a different social classes. They cannot, one of them is royalty or aristocrat and the other is a commoner. They cannot get married. Very often the man is getting killed because the father or the husband of the woman, doesn't want him around.
Mm-hmm.
We have this kind of situations. We have situations when a woman rejects a man or the man rejects a woman. They can't be together. Sometimes they're even brother and sister or childhood friends. But because there is a sexual tension between them, when they get to puberty, they get separated. The boy is sent to college, the girl is sent to monastery, getting married, because parents don't want, them to have ancestral relationship. Or again, even if they're just friends or neighbors, they get separated.
So if I may ask this question, what's the main difference in your opinion then between a twin flame and a soulmate? Because the twin flames are cut from the same energy unit, and then they go into two different bodies or the split souls or whatever. But a soulmate are just people from the same soul group reincarnate together with various scripts, and sometimes they become romantic, and sometimes they're family or friends.
True. I would say exclusivity. Because we are talking about two souls and two souls only, which are connected through this holographic entanglement. Plus, again, a lot of them are polarized, divine feminine. They have the polarization of energy. Soulmates don't have strong polarity. I mean, some souls are a little more feminine and some souls are a little more masculine. Some souls prefer female bodies. Some souls prefer male bodies. Most of the souls are androgynous and just go 50-50, male and female lives. With twin flames, we have much stronger polarization. And if they don't have strong polarization, because we can see it at the birth of their souls, if they're absolutely identical twins, or if they're more like fraternal twin, one boy and one girl. Again, there is no bodies at that point, but there is a sense of feminine energy, masculine energy. So if they're polarized, their past lives are all going to be romantic. Not necessarily happy. Again, it can be a lot of tragedy. It can be, this doom's love, doomsday love, when they never can unite, but they're always in love with each other. And if they're absolutely identical, then we have what Edgar Cayce calls twin souls, because there is another idea that's from Edgar Cayce, and he believed that twin souls are two souls who always incarnate together, united by a mission, by something they need to do together spiritually.
Yeah, it could either be planetary and big, or it could be, I read where sometimes the twin flames, one of them acts almost like a mentor for the other one. Have you got
Right,
into
it's
that?
possible. Again, if it's not romantic, if it's a platonic relationship, and each life we trade roles as
Right.
teacher and student, parent and child, or siblings, that's non-polarized twin souls. They can also be created from the same monad, very similar to twin flames, but they don't have polarization. So there is not that strong of a sexual attraction between them on the spiritual level. Even, if it's a man or a woman and they're young and they're both good looking, yeah, they can even marry and have children together. But eventually it wears out because their spiritual connection is not polarized. They're really better off as platonic friends or as family members.
Yeah.
But they have a strong sense of mission. So from Edgar Cayce, I think this whole idea of mission, it really comes also into twin flame relationships because it all gets thrown in the same basket. So about typology, why I'm talking about split souls or monetic twin flames. So when I started eventually accepting the idea of twin flames, and kind of like, okay, let's see what is going on. Let's just go beyond past lives. Let's look at the birth of your souls. Most of the twin flames, or people who call themselves twin flames, most of them see like two souls created together. And they never incarnate in one body. They always incarnate either separate in separate lives, or they incarnate as a couple. So they're not really one soul in two bodies. It's two incarnated, interconnected souls in two bodies. But I also had some clients who go into a past life and they see the past life like as a nun or a monk or a dervish or some healer, hermit living in a forest all by themselves, talking to animals, people. There is no romantic counterpart at all. So and they're very happy in those lives. They're very self-sufficient. And when they die, I ask them, hey, I sent you into a past life with the soul of X, Y, Z. Where was this twin flame in that life? And they're like, we were together in one body. We were just one soul in one body. And then they can go into another life when the life looks very nice. They're married, they have a whole bunch of children, very wealthy, but they're miserable. Like, okay, they die, and I ask them, why are you so miserable? You had such a pleasant life, some English lady, with, living in a castle and married to a lord. Oh, but I was alone without my twin flame. In that life, I was just half of a soul. I was ripped from my twin flame. My husband was not my twin flame. It was just some guy, I loved my children, but it was not enough because I felt like my soul was surgically divided into two parts. That's what I call split souls. These are the souls who they created as a regular soul within a group of soulmates with a whole bunch of soulmates. And they reincarnate as one soul in one body for a long time with their
So
soul.
is that what would you call two halves of a single soul? What a split soul is?
At some point, this soul, which is used to be in one body, one soul, something happens, either a trauma or some kind of a lesson they need to learn, like a lesson of self-love or balancing masculine, feminine energy in the body. For whatever reason, they separate into two bodies. But these two people now, because they really feel like they're half of the soul, they're looking for their other half, not just for divine partner, not for, like perfect husband. They're looking for another part of their lost soul.
Yeah, it's almost like
And
a scientific physical thing because they're looking for, and they're usually destined to unite, and they probably have a pre-birth agreement, right, to
they
find each other
do.
again, right?
Right, and they usually find each other again, but still they are triggering each other because they have all kinds of trauma from their past lives, and they don't necessarily unite. And again, the monadics, the same thing. The
Mm,
monadics usually have all these past lives when they can't be together, and they're still carrying this whole energy of, star-crossed lovers who cannot be together because they had so many lives when they tried to unite, but they couldn't. And some of them do. Then there is another thing. So we have these two types, like monadics, two souls created together, or
split
split
soul.
soul, one soul in two bodies. But now we have another filter, and another filter would be, are you earthling or starseed or angelic? Because
Exactly.
most souls reincarnate only on planet Earth till they learn all their lessons and they can graduate from Earth school. But right, especially nowadays, if you read Dolores canon, we know there are so many volunteers who are not from this planet. They're coming from the universe. They're coming from spaceships, other planets, and they incarnate in human bodies. And they, in a sense, they're not comfortable in a human body because it's not what they like. And they're not comfortable on this planet because we have very low vibration in comparison with like Taurus or Andromeda or Sirius, Pleiades. They're not happy at all. They're like foreigners living in a foreign country. They very often don't have any soulmates here. And what I notice that sometimes monadic twin flames, they can come together and they become the only two souls who know each other from those planets or spaceships.
Hmm.
Or a soul, one extraterrestrial, can come to Earth and separate into two bodies for very specific reason because they have a mission. They have to do something here, like working on the grids or clearing pollution or raising vibration or bringing technological advances or medical. But for them to get company on the foreign planet and also to achieve their mission, they take over two bodies. And with
Mm,
them, it's actually a little bit easier because they're one soul in all their extraterrestrial lives. They always have one body.
mm.
And they can be some very powerful extraterrestrial, like some kind of a dragon, or it can be a huge energy being, or it can even be an angel
Mm.
comes here and gets two bodies because that speeds up their mission.
Would that be called
So
starseed twins? Starseed
it was
twins?
the starseed split souls. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Well, again, it depends because if they're polarized, they're going to be romantic. If they're not polarized, they can be best friends or
Mm,
colleagues. And I had situations when some of my clients would have this telepathic connection with somebody in the industry, somebody they're working together on the project. And it's not a romantic relationship, but they're wondering why we think alike, why we finish each other's sentences, why we think in the same images, why we share each other's emotions. And they are one extraterrestrial soul in two bodies. But they were never supposed to be romantic. They don't have polarization.
right. Well, I want to say something to you, and you can give me your opinion now that we're talking this. I've
Sure.
had I've
Uh-huh.
had two wives this lifetime, and I lost both of them after two 20-year relationships, and I'm positive the first one was a soulmate because
Uh-huh.
although I loved her, I got over it quick. The second one, I absolutely know was my twin flame, and I lost her, and I actually do feel part of me is gone, and I've got this urge to reunite again where I didn't have that on the first wife. So it feels like the first one was a soulmate romance, and the second one was a real twin flame.
Well, let me ask you, are you still communicating with her? Because twin
Absolutely.
flames they can communicate
Absolutely.
between dimensions.
I even had
Right.
an out-of-body
Yeah, if you can
experience.
do this, it's
Yeah,
most likely twin flames, right? Because
right,
sometimes what we see, actually the role of twin flames can be afterlife communication, because usually with this kind of people, they can marry, they can meet each other and, unite, and then one of them dies. But the
right.
minute one of them dies, they start channeling.
Yeah,
They get psychic
that's what
abilities
happened.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it
plus
means that's your contract. That was decided before you incarnated.
absolutely, because I
Because
had
she
an
can help
Akashic,
you to bring all kinds of information, right,
yeah,
from the afterlife.
and I had an Akashic reading about that and confirmed it. And the interesting thing is the amount of personal growth and remembering my divinity has been so amazing after she passed. So I know that that was part of her mission, was to us reunite and then her leave early. And she used to say the last year or
Right.
two, she called me Jasmine because I'm a jazz guy. She goes, I know you want to live a long life, but I know that's not in my script. She had a high spiritual IQ too. So,
Right. Yeah, I have clients actually who wrote even some books about it, who were not even married to their twin flame. They were just friends. But the minute they died, they started communicating. They're
right.
always around each other. They become like their spirit guide,
Mm.
talk to each other all the time. So that might be one of the possible missions, creating this connection between fifth and third dimension. By the way, another thing what it works for, if you have a twin flame in the fifth dimension, you can do mediumship. You can cross over ghosts. Because if you have psychic abilities, if you're more or less a medium, then the one who is in third dimension is much closer to, low astral plane ghosts. They
Hmm.
can start talking, but it also takes somebody in fifth dimension to pull them up. And that's where, the incarnated and discarnated twin flames, they can do together this kind of work. They can
Yeah,
liberate a whole bunch of ghosts.
yeah.
Because they
On the
literally,
astral
they
plane.
create
Yeah.
like a channel, right? They create like an elevator between third and fifth dimension.
Well, what other explain your different modality because we're starting to get close here. I think we've got about 15 minutes. You have a
Right.
twin flame modality. What's different about that compared to regular past life regression, your twin flame
Well,
regression?
first of all, in regular past life regression, you are just sent into a life which you're supposed to see.
Hmm.
Whatever is important for you to see today. There is no invocation. We can ask, about the significant others and like, cast of characters, like in Michael Newton modality.
Hmm.
In twin flame regression, I actually, before we even get into past lives, I get them like on the cloud or into a boat or somewhere, and we call the image of the person in question. So they have to imagine they're sitting together on a cloud with the supposedly twin flame or soulmate.
But
So
the
anyway,
other
they
twin
look into each other.
is the other twin already in 5D or could they both be in
It,
3D?
it doesn't matter. It's
Doesn't
imagination.
matter. Okay.
They just have to imagine that they're together
Hmm.
and they're looking into each other's eyes. And when they're looking in, the eyes are the windows of the soul.
Hmm.
So when you look into somebody's eyes, you let go of their appearance, you just connect with the energy. And then whether they're traveling on the cloud or a magic carpet or a boat or, time machine, doesn't matter. We're going into past life with this connection. We're very specific. So we're going into past life with that soul
Oh,
when we're
I see. So
together
it's a
with
very,
soul.
it's a
It's
specific
much more
regression.
specific.
Right.
It's very specific. Again, it doesn't still, it doesn't still tell us if they're soulmates or twin flames, but it's an important connection. So we are exploring very specifically this soul connection. So we go into past life. Usually they see a past life together as a
Right.
couple or whatever. Then we can go into healing. And when we go already cross over into fifth dimension, we do some healing and like all kinds of healing places. When they're done healing, well, usually if that person died first, it's easier because I ask them, who is meeting you? Oh, my twin flame is meeting me. So they're meeting together in the afterlife, and I want to see what is happening between them in the afterlife. Are they stayed in two astral bodies? Are they separate? Or they start merging? If they start merging and they start losing, the image of the past life personality, they just become energy beings and they merge into one. That's already one of the, like checked boxes for the twin flames. Because soulmates don't merge into one energy body. They just stay, they're friends, they can be in two energy bodies, but they don't fully merge. And then again, we go into Akashic Records, we explore all their past lives together. Then we check if it's only on Earth or other planets or angelic realm, energy beings. Check everything. And then we go to the birth of the soul. And again, the birth of the soul for me is number one criteria for twin flames.
I see.
And again, unless they are split soul, if they're split soul, they go into past life in one body right away. Because that's their normal state. One soul in one body. We already know right they see in a past life, Well, there are sometimes there can be situation when the twin flame is their spirit guide. I occasionally had a situation when, but they were spirit guides, but that's rare.
Well, there's another
So we
concept I
go
want to
through
ask
all
you
kinds
about.
of.
You go through the whole Akashic Records as part of it. Once you go through the beginning part of it, you go through the Akashic Records to get all the
Well, we can't
information.
go through all Akashic Records. It's unrealistic. If they have thousands of lives, we're not going
Right.
through.
Yeah.
We're just basically going through patterns, how many lives with the soul, how many lives are romantic, how many lives are platonic. If it's platonic lives, what kind of roles did you play? If it's romantic lives, how many were happy, how many were unhappy? When you couldn't be together, when it was tragedy or early death or something.
So this
And
is
again,
more
we
like
also do a little bit of healing.
healing on it. Yeah. The masters and
Yeah.
teachers you're in contact with too, they give you the information as is necessary, right? Is from what I read. Yeah.
Right. We also get guides. So we get information from different channels. Most of it comes from Akashic Records, but we also later get spirit guides and check with spirit guides. Are they really twin flames or not? Because there are some types of relationships which are between soulmates and twin flames, but I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah, we don't have enough time.
Right,
Yeah.
we don't have time for that.
So what is, explain in the time we have left, if you would like, FLP, future life progression.
Future life progression, we do very little FLP in twin flame sessions. When we get to Akashic Records, if it's a book, the last chapter is this life. That's where we get all the soul contracts, life purpose, mission, what is the contract with the twin flame. And in the very end of the book, there will be white pages. Those white pages symbolize the future.
I see.
And future is not set in stone.
It can
Future
be.
can change, of course.
Yeah.
But because there is a soul contract and there is a pre-birth plan, we're looking at the future aligned with the pre-birth plan. Because we are getting the pre-birth plan basically twice. Once they just read it in words, and when we go into the future, they see how it plays as a movie. They get the visual. They see the house where they're living like 5 years from now. Are they with that twin flame or not? Is there another person there? Do they have any more children? What are they doing for work? They're getting all this information. But again, this is like the ideal timeline. It's ideal future. FLP in general is a totally different modality. It can serve for many different purposes, like making decisions or creating future business. Here we're mostly using it basically to see what is the ideal scenario in their future. And you
I
can
see.
also unite with your future self. You can breathe it in, and it helps to manifest it a little bit faster,
Have
when
you
you.
found, have you found that through past life regression? I'm very psychic, so I kind of do some of this stuff
Mhm.
naturally, but through
Right.
past life regression, people can actually discard pre-birth agreements if they don't need them anymore
Yes,
through
it's possible. It's
study.
possible. It's possible. Yes, it all can change. Remember, our higher selves are always in the higher dimensions. So if something changes in your real life and your pre-birth agreement becomes irrelevant or impossible, your higher self will make a new agreement.
That's what I
I
figured.
mean,
Yeah.
again, you might have a soulmate whom you're supposed to marry and have 5 children together, and the soulmate dies in a motorcycle crash.
Right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're going to be alone till the rest of your life. Your higher self will find you another soul, you know.
And that
I mean, twin
explains.
flames.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to say that soulmates are potentially replaceable since we have a whole bunch of them, or at least we can get another soul with a compatible energy. But twin flames are really not replaceable. So if twin flame dies before you meet them, you might be able to communicate between dimensions, but it's not going to be in this life. It's not going to be a life with a twin flame. If they die after you meet and you create connection, you get activated, your ascension starts, then of course they die, you still communicate.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what happened with me. And that
Right,
explains
right.
why
That's
some
what you
people,
know, right?
yeah, some people have the question, well, wait a minute, what if my one of my loved ones reincarnates? They're not going to be there to greet me. And I always tell them, no, your higher self stays
Hmm.
in 5D and only a spark of
Exactly.
you goes
Hmm.
into the body. So they're still going to be there, correct?
Right, because you have to understand in on the lower levels of the afterlife, we still have like holographic bodies. You still look like yourself, or each of your past life personalities can still exist there in their own image. I have actually dreams. I go to parties and I meet a whole bunch of past life personalities. It's like a costume party, they live in
Yeah.
different
No.
cultures, they wear different clothes, we're all hanging out together like an oversoul. Like says Oversoul 7, when they meet 7 different incarnations of the same. So anyway, but if you go higher than that, that raising above the first level, above the park, this personality just merge into a ball of light. Then
So
they
will
become
they be there
everything.
if they go to 60 or 70 or above? Will they not be
Mhm.
there when you incarnate? I mean, when
They
you
can know
cross over?
this ball of light, you have to understand it's a very powerful energy. It can project a hologram for you.
Got it. Okay. Right.
So say your grandmother died, she ascended to 7/8 dimension. Now she in the state of higher self or higher,
Hmm.
but then you die and she's your greeter. Well, it's going to be a hologram of your grandmother just like you remember her,
Uh,
projected by this higher self. Eventually, when you ascend to that dimension, you and your grandmother are going to be just 2 balls of light. You don't
right.
need
And
to
you,
see her to know her energy.
yeah, the energy signature is
Mhm.
recognized, in other words. Right.
Exactly right. In higher dimensions, it all goes by energy signature.
Well, listen, I could talk to you we may have to have a part two on this, but we've
Right. Yeah.
covered some really amazing things. I wanted to ask you a question, but there's not enough time to answer it, so I'm not going to. So could you tell the people how best to get a hold of you so we have this recorded and how you work?
Well, first of all, if they want to read, I don't have a published book, but I have thousands of answers on the website Quora.com.
Yeah, I see that all the time. Yeah,
Right,
you're one of the
Quora,
top ones.
yeah, I'm the number one writer in reincarnation, past life, twin flame, soulmates. I spend at least hour to a day answering questions. So you can
Yeah.
actually ask me questions on Quora. You have to figure out how to ask the question correctly and how to tag people. So it's free to be on that website, get yourself familiarized with how Quora works. And
Yeah.
I'm Irina Nola. Yeah, I'm very easy to find. And if you want to have a session, you can go to my website. It's neworleanshypnosis.com. And, I do sessions online. You don't need
And
to
so
be here in
most is online, but can they, if they're in the area or travel to you to have
Sure, yeah,
okay.
they can. If I'm in town, yes, they can. Yeah, because I travel also sometimes. But most of the year I'm here, so yes, if they're visiting or they live like in a nearby state, they want to come in person, sure they can.
Fantastic.
But
All
a
right,
lot of my sessions are online right now.
so they have to have a camera and stuff obviously set
You
up,
have
right?
to have Zoom.
Yeah, a
You have to.
Zoom, but
Everybody nowadays have Zoom. Like
exactly.
after COVID, everybody knows what Zoom is. Like you can even
Fantastic.
do it on your phone. You don't even need a computer.
Exactly.
You do
Well,
need a computer though to download the recording because you can't
how
download.
long are your sessions, your past life or twin flame
Typically
regress?
3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. And so they have to set their phone or their camera up so you can see their body when you're going
Yeah.
through the
I don't need to
hypnosis.
see their body, just the face.
Okay, just the face. I see.
Just the face, and they usually lay down. They need to put a phone or computer next to their bed, and they have to wear an eye mask
I see.
because I need to see them, but I want them to be in the dark because they go quicker into trance states and they get better visuals when they have something on their eyes.
Exactly. Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time, and I will put your contact information in the notes when this gets posted, because I have to do a little bit of editing. I'll send you the link.
Of course.
And let's stay in
Sure, yeah.
touch. You've got my cell. I don't know if I have your cell, but you have mine. You can always send it to me through a text, okay?
Okay.
Well,
All
thanks
right.
so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Yes,
It was a pleasure to meet you.
yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. I have a couple things to do. If you want to bow out, you can. But I have to say a few things here, okay?
All right.
So thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Goodbye, everybody.
Take care.
Okay.
Wasn't that great, everybody? Listen, remember, I enjoy your feedback on all these sessions, so you can email me at john@johnnovelloauthor.com or text me at 818-740-3728, or get the details of my mentor program on my website, The Invisible Architect Alignment Protocol, or book a free life strategy session call by going to go.johnnovelloauthor.com, register. You can also go to my main website, johnnovelloauthor.com. And until next week, flourish. It's your destiny. John Novello, the jazz philosopher, over and out.
This concludes this week's podcast with The Jazz Philosopher, John Novello. To learn more about John, visit his website at johnnovelloauthor.com, or to schedule a one-on-one consultation with John, visit go.johnnovelloauthor.com/register. See you next week.